Recently, High Court issued bail orders of the persons who were accused in the February 2020 riots. High Court said in its orders that if someone is dissenters, so you cannot call it terrorist. So terrorizing dissent. What the government is trying to do is, if someone is a dissenter, if someone have some different opinions than the government, then government tries to make him terrorist. High Court bail orders are an indictment. If something is indictment, so it means if something is indictment for something, it shows that a system is wrong and there is a need to be done something to correct the system. So bail orders of high courts are indictment of attempt to portray Delhi protests as terrorist acts. So the government is trying to portray means to show Delhi protests as terrorist acts. So you can say that the government was trying to show that the Delhi protest was an incident of, you can say that it was an incident equal to terrorist activity. Caught between a statutory bar on grant of regular bail. There is one law, you see which one is that law, UAPA. Yes, this one, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, है ना, UAPA. This act is, you can say that, very stringent action. This act is very stringent act. So, and if you are arrested under this act, then bail cannot be given to you. Caught between, when you are between two things, है ना, so we use this phrase, caught between. A statutory bar. Statutory bar means you can say that legal, है ना, to prevent something legally. On grant of regular bail and a judicial embargo. Here embargo means, you can say that, restriction. Embargo means restriction, है ना, by law. On any close examination of available evidence at the bail stage. If anyone is arrested under anti-terror law, if anyone is arrested under anti-terror law, so we have two possibilities. First possibility is that you can say that the first possibility is there is already a prevention, you can say that legal prevention, that bail cannot be given to the person who is under arrest under anti-terror law. And the other thing is judicial embargo. Judicial embargo means from the court there is a restriction. There is a restriction on court that they cannot examine the available evidence at the bail stage. So available stage. Those arrested under the country's main anti-terror law have been languishing. Languish means to suffer in an unpleasant condition in jails without trial for extended period. So those arrested under the country's main anti-terror law have been languishing in jails without trial for extended period. So you can say that in February 2020, many people were arrested under anti-terror law and they have been remaining in jail and without any proceedings and without any trial and for long periods. Because why they are still in jail? They are still in jail because of these two conditions. You can say that they are in between these two conditions. First condition is if you are under arrest under UAPA, so you cannot be granted regular bail. And the other thing is that there is a, you can say that, judicial restriction, that there is no need to examine the evidence while giving bail. So due to these conditions, so many people who were arrested under anti-terror law are still in jail. The Delhi High Court orders granting bail, but recently Delhi High Court but recently the Delhi High Court has given bail to 3 students, activists jailed for over a year, and they were in jail for over a year for their alleged role. Alleged means it was said, it was reported that they were involved in the February 2020 riots. Riots means violent activity. Riots means violent activity to disturb the public order in Delhi, represent a clear-headed effort. So editorial says that recently bail has been provided by the Delhi High Court to 3 students and who were in jail for their role in 2020 riots. So what does it show? It shows that the Delhi High Court is making efforts to get around. To get around means to overcome, to get around such impediments. Impediments means hurdles, obstacles. So editorial says that there are so many obstacles, there are so many impediments in giving bail if someone is arrested under this law. So Delhi High Court is, you can say that, trying to remove these impediments. Sound in legal reasoning. Sound means powerful in legal reasoning. So Delhi High Court, the logic which was given by the Delhi High Court was very strong, and interpretation, and the interpretation means to explain something. So the interpretation and reasoning of the Delhi High Court was very powerful. The judgments of Justice Siddharth Mridul and Justice Anup Jairam Bhambani, these were the 2 justices who gave this order, have made. So what the judgment was made, have made a salient means very important, distinctions means difference between those accused. So these judges described 2 categories. One category is those accused of offense. Offense means crime. Accused of offenses against the country's integrity and security. Integrity means, you can say that, honesty. Integrity means honesty and security on the one hand. So one category is of the people who commits crime against the security of country, and the another category is the protesters or dissenters. Dissenters means who is disagree with you on some matters. Dissenters, roped in. If you rope in someone, you forcefully involve that person in something. If you rope in someone, it means you forcefully involve that person into some activity. Dissenters, roped in unjustifiably means inappropriately, under the rubric. Rubric means a set of rules of terrorism on the other. So you can say that the Delhi High Court clearly made 2 categories. One category is of the offenders who try to harm the security of our country, and the another category is of the protesters, or you can say that the critics of the government. And when you try to arrest the protesters, so this is the 2 categories, protesters or dissenters, roped in unjustifiably. You cannot rope in. Rope in means you cannot make involved someone forcefully, inappropriately, under the rubric of terrorism. So you have the law related to terrorism, and you cannot arrest those protesters under this law. It is inappropriate. The Unlawful Activities Prevention Act has been invoked. Invoke means to take the use, of. So UAPA Act has been invoked by the Delhi police against activists and others who were among those organizing the protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act. So what was happening? Some people were protesting against Citizenship Amendment Act. Amendment means improvement. So some people were protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act. So what happened? the Delhi High Court take the use of UAPA against these activists who were protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act. And what was the claim made by the Delhi police was that they had also fomented. Delhi police said that these persons who were protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act, they were instigating the public. They incited riots. Riots means a violent activity which disturbs the law and order. So it was the claim of the Delhi police that these persons who were protesting against the Citizenship Amendment Act, they also incited riots. Under section 43D5, there is a legal bar. You can say that there is a legal bar. Legal bar on, bar means to prevent something, on granting bail if the court is of the opinion that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the accusation means blame, against those held is prima facie true. So under this UAPA, there is one section 43D5. It says that bail cannot be given to the person who has been arrested under the UAPA, and the person who has been arrested, and about the person who has been arrested, court believes that the blame which has been made against that person, it seems true. It at first sight, if court feels that the accusations which have been made against the person under UAPA, if court also believes that no, these accusations seems right, you can say that at first if we see then these accusations seems right, then bail cannot be given. Adding to this, onerous burden. Onerous burden means this is the responsibility, this is the responsibility of the accused to demonstrate to the court that the accusation is untrue. Is a 2019 Supreme Court judgment that bars a detailed analysis of the evidence at the bail stage and rules that bail can be denied on the broad probabilities of the case. So this line is somewhat complicated. In 2019, a decision was given by the Supreme Court, and that decision says that you can prevent, there is no need, this decision prevents a detailed analysis of the evidence at the bail stage. If someone has been arrested under the UAPA, so there is no need to examine evidences at the bail stage, and the 2019 Supreme Court judgment also says that bail can be denied on the broad probabilities of the case. If we have the case and there are so many possibilities are there, so many probabilities are there, and on that probabilities we can deny bail. So it is the duty of the persons who has been arrested to prove, to show that the accusations, that the blames which have been made against them are untrue. The High Court has ruled that the bail court can look at the available evidence. High Court has ruled, so Delhi High Court has said or has given verdict that the bail court can look at the available evidence to satisfy itself about the prima facie truth of the case. Prima facie means something. When you see something at first time, what does you feel? What do you feel? So the High Court has ruled that the bail court can look at the available evidences. So whatever the evidences available can be looked into, and it can be seen whether these evidences are right or wrong. In other words, there is no statutory invincibility. There is no statutory. Statutory means legal, and another word is invincibility. Invincibility means you can say that prevent from doing what is intended. to the prosecution, है ना, prosecution means to make charges against someone, है ना, to make some criminal proceedings case, merely means only because the UAPA has been invoked. Invoke means to take the use of something. So editorial says that, in other words, the Delhi High Court has said that there is no statutory invincibility, है ना. It means you cannot prevent from doing, or that the statutory invincibility to the prosecution case merely because the UAPA has been invoked. If UAPA has been used, then you cannot say now that you cannot examine the case. You can examine the case, you can see the evidences, and if you feel that evidences are in the support of the accused person, then you can give him bail. It has found that none of the three, all three persons, like who were Asif Iqbal Tana, Natasha Narwal and Devangana Kalita. So none of the three was specifically or particularly accused of any terrorist act. So the Delhi High Court found that none of these three persons was accused of any terrorist act, neither funding of terrorist act, funding means to provide money for terrorist activities, or an act amounting to, amount to means equal to, conspiracy. Conspiracy means to make a plan against someone or something. Conspiracy. To commit means to, you can say that, to execute your plan, commit a terrorist act or something preparatory to it. So you can say that the Delhi High Court found that there was no evidence that these persons were preparing for terrorist activities, or these persons made any type of conspiracy, or they provided fund for terrorist activities, or in anyhow they were not involved in terrorist act. It was found by the Delhi High Court, and on that ground the bail was given to them. Once the UAPA charges were not seen to be true, once the Delhi High Court found that UAPA charges, accusations were not seen to be true, once the Delhi High Court felt that the charges under UAPA are not true against these persons, it was open to the court to admit them to regular bail till when? Conclusion of the trial. So the Delhi High Court decided, no, we can give them bail until the conclusion, final decision of the case. Trial means proceeding. Further, in addition to which 740 witnesses cited. In this case, 740 witnesses are involved. In this case, Delhi riots February 2020 case. In this case, 740 witnesses are involved. There is no scope for early conclusion of the trial. There are no chances that this case will be concluded early. Riots are matters concerning public order. So editorial says that riots are matters concerning public order. So when riots happen, public order gets disturbed, and not the security of the state. So security of the states, you can say that security of the states is under threat when someone attacks, when someone try to attack on state. So riot is related to public order. Riot is not related to security. Editorial says like that. The court's observation. Court found that the state, in its anxiety means you are in tension, to suppress means you can say that you want to press someone, you want to force someone, to suppress dissent. So editorial says that court observed that the government was in tension, and government wanted to suppress who were against the government, who were dissenters. So the government blurred the line. Blurred the line means, when you blurred the line, it means there are two categories. There are two categories, and there is a minute difference between these two categories. But when you mix these two categories, then you have blurred the line which separates these two categories. So the government has blurred the line between the constitutionally guaranteed right to protest. So you can protest against the policies of the government, है ना? You have this right, and this right has been given to you by constitution. So this one category is of the protester, and another category is terrorist activity, and another category is terrorist activity. So to be involved in terrorist activity and to be involved in protest, है ना? There are these two categories, but the government has blurred the line between these two categories. If anyone is protesting, the government may count him under terrorist activity. So the court's observation is a stern indictment. So court's examination is a strong indictment, है ना? I already told you, if something is indictment for something, है ना? If something is indictment for something, so indictment means a thing that demonstrate that a system is bad and deserves to be condemned. So the court's observation, है ना? The court's observation serves as an indictment of the establishment. So the Delhi High Court's order indirectly says that there is something wrong with the government, है ना? The government is trying to mix the terrorist activity and the protesters. The Delhi police has gone to the Supreme Court on appeal against the verdict. Verdict means judgment. So the Delhi police has gone to the Supreme Court, है ना? Delhi police has appealed to the Supreme Court against the decision of the Delhi High Court. Possibly in the fear, है ना? Your editorial says that it is possible that Delhi police is fearing. Why? That the ruling means verdict, may foil. Foil means you can say that to stop from succeeding. Its design to paint means to show protesters as terrorists. So at present, the Delhi police was trying to present the protesters as terrorists, but the recent Delhi High Court verdict can stop the Delhi police in performing their act. If the High Court's approach to grant of bail is upheld, okay, now the matter will go to the Supreme Court, है ना? And if the Supreme Court maintains the order of High Court, है ना? If Supreme Court maintains the order of High Court, है ना? Upheld means to maintain something. It would help secure the liberty, means freedom, of other dissenters held under the UAPA. So there are so many cases in this country, there are so many cases in India, and what do these cases show? That under UAPA so many persons have been arrested, है ना? So if the Supreme Court you can say that if the Supreme Court preserves the High Court's order, then it would help in securing the liberty of other dissenters held under the UAPA, है ना? Those people who have been arrested under the UAPA elsewhere without sufficient basis, है ना? So there are so many cases, and there was not enough ground, but these people were arrested under UAPA. If the verdict of the Delhi High Court is maintained by the Supreme Court, then it would be helpful, or you can say that it would be in favor of dissenters who have been arrested under the UAPA in India elsewhere.